Vivek, thank you so much for coming.
It's good to be here.
And making the trek and keeping your commitment with everything that you got going on. We're fired up, guys. We're at the PHP Gala tonight, and Vivek is our keynote speaker for this evening, and I pulled him aside to get a few questions in. So thank you for the additional time as well. So I wanted to ask you, as an entrepreneur, we run an insurance investment company.
Yes.
What can somebody that's in entrepreneurship, that's building a business, do to help support America that's currently not pursuing politics at the moment?
So I would say that any successful entrepreneur who's actually building their business with the intention of serving customers is already doing an important part of rebuilding this country. Our economy is flailing. People have prices that are skyrocketing while wages have remained flat. Any entrepreneur who's creating something of value is really contributing to growing this economy at a time where that's one of the things we need most in the country right now. And so we deserve to celebrate that. I love that. But I think the reality is people will be more united in this country if we're all able to actually make more money in that country. And I don't think that's something we need to apologize for. Capitalism is the best known system to mankind to lift people up from poverty. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think that's not something we need to apologize for. Not crony capitalism, but real capitalism, the true thing. Is if you're truly an entrepreneur, you found a product or a service that people need that nobody else is providing. That means you're going to be successful and you're making the country more successful along the way. And that's already a head start. Now, I think there's a part of us that goes beyond just being a capitalist that wants to serve this country in other ways. I did it by running for president and hopefully serving this country in other ways. And I think every other entrepreneur, after they've achieved the pinnacle of what they view as their success as an entrepreneur, I would say consider a phase of your life where you do consider something that isn't just about building a business, but you don't need to apologize for your success in the meantime. And
Correct.
I came here as the kid of immigrants who came here with no money. You know what? I founded multi-billion-dollar companies. It's only after having done that I then said, how do we pass that on to the next generation? And I don't think that's something that people need to be ashamed of. I think something people need to be proud of.
We talk about that in our company, that there's 4 levels. There's survival, then there's status, then there's freedom, and then there's purpose.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a phase that I'm trying to move into in my life. We built a business for the last 19, 20 years.
Right.
We still want to keep growing the company. What advice would you give to somebody that's an entrepreneur that's considering maybe serving in politics and trying to learn more about it to see if it's something that's a true interest and if they can do it?
Yeah, I think that don't force it would be my first piece of advice. But if after really understanding what it entails, and politics, there's different avenues. There's serving in Congress or the Senate or a state legislature versus being an executive like a mayor or a governor. A president is executive as well. I tend to think if you've really been an entrepreneur, you will probably be more uniquely suited to pursue an executive role. And I think that there's a lot of political talents who can pass individual laws. There aren't a lot of people who are actually able to execute in the public sector. And so if you're an entrepreneur, I would consider, whether it's a mayor, whether it's a governorship, whether it's something else, to look at how to put your executive talents to use. And so that'd be my advice is, first of all, don't force it. Don't do it just because you feel like it's a box to check. But if you organically feel called to doing it, consider those roles where executive experience can actually make a difference.
My reason for wanting to do it or thinking about doing it is I didn't serve the country, but I have so much admiration for people that did.
Yeah.
So I want to, at a season of my life, be able to give back to America, to my country, to the community. And so that's more so. And what advice would you give me in terms of looking into that or seeing if it's a passion?
My first piece of advice is, at some point, if you're really drawn to it, then just do it.
Okay.
It doesn't just mean you have to run for election. You could actually look at a lot of people who are in executive positions of leadership need help. People who have come from maybe being a state legislator or a city councilor who are a mayor. Go to the mayor of your local town. Sit down and have a conversation. If you're an entrepreneur, I guarantee you that the mayor of that town is going to know that that's going to be valuable advice that you're going to have for them. So take advantage of that and just get started by already doing the thing. In my case, back when I was beginning to leave my business career, I knew that writing things down was something that was useful to me. That led me to write a book. So that'd also be a piece of advice is sometimes you have a lot of pent-up energy you can have bottled up as an entrepreneur. Writing is a pretty good outlet too. I carried around a notebook everywhere I went, wrote down what I felt like needed to be written down. And to me, that's what took me on my journey. But even though your journey may be different than mine, start with actually putting on paper what that bottled up sense of service and commitment to the country really is.
That's great.
And good things are going to happen from there. Even though it's not the same path that I took necessarily, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It's going to be your path, but forcing yourself to write it down, I think, is actually a good form of discipline.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I'm going to start. I'm going to do that.
And I think it's great. It was liberating for me.
We reached out to the mayors before we came out to our event. So that's kind of my, yeah, we did.
Oh, you're already doing
so that's kind of my next step to learn, to ask, hey, how can I be of service? What can I do?
Totally.
What skill sets would you say that as an entrepreneur you carried over into what you're doing in politics?
So I think one thing, you only succeed as an entrepreneur if the pack is going one direction and you're going in another. Well, that contrarian view to me is actually what I brought to the presidential races. Even if the entire Republican Party is saying one set of slogans, we got to ask the why, and when necessary, go in a slightly different direction than the pack. And I don't think professional career politicians can bring that to the table in a way that an entrepreneur can. You know that. You built a business. You got to understand where the opportunities where others aren't pursuing it. Bring that same contrarian vision to politics, because that's what this country needs.
That makes sense. That's great feedback. Thank you for that. To get to that next level, as we're growing our company, we're growing the business, and I've seen what you've done with building billion-dollar companies. What advice would you say is that shift from, we're doing around 37 million a year or so in sales, we want to get to that first 100 million?
Yep.
What advice would you say that you changed in yourself to go from at that level to doing your first 100 mil?
Well, look, I think that what got you here won't get you there, but the mission still has to stay constant. So stay true to the initial purpose, but acknowledge and be grateful to the fact that even the people who got you from one place to another may not necessarily be the same people who get you to the next level. That's one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur, as a leader of any kind, but to recognize that there's the people who are there at the right phase at the right time, and they have the right skill sets, and they may be the right people to found the next company, even though they might not be the right people around you to scale the one that you have. And I think that that's one of the hardest decisions that every entrepreneur and CEO has to make, but it's not any different when you're in the world of public service as you are in the world of building businesses. Who's the right people with the right skill sets to help you, and thank and be grateful for the people who got you from A to B, but they may not be the same group of people who are going to get you from B to C, and that's okay. It's not a sad thing. It doesn't have to be a hard thing. It can actually be something we celebrate. And the more you view that as a positive, I think the more successful we're going to be.
That's great. Thank you. Last question.
Yeah.
From watching you from afar and your town halls with Pat and every single town hall you did and the number of times you visited every county, like that work ethic, that relentlessness, that nonstop, like it didn't matter where I looked, you were there. How did you do that? How do you operate at that capacity?
I think if you have it's at the top of the hierarchy that you mentioned, purpose. If you're guided by, if there's actual purpose, then you know what? It doesn't matter whether it's at 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. You're advancing the ball towards achieving a worthy purpose. And so for me, that's what the whole ball game's about. Is there a clearly defined purpose? If so, then you can stop at nothing to achieve that. And that's what's guided me. And certainly when I've been at my best in my career and at my best in this presidential campaign, the presidential campaign had a clear purpose the whole time. That's what drove me to work endless amounts and still wouldn't run out of energy for it, because that's what guided me. I think that's what I would say is the hardest part is finding out worthy purpose. But once you have it, stick to it. And nothing's going to stop you from achieving the maximum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pat has a quote he taught me. I met Pat when I was 18. I'm 37 now, so it's been a while.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he says, mankind is lazy until something catches its heart.
It's a different and even more beautiful way of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
So find out something that catches the heart, and the rest becomes easier from there.
Thank you, brother.
It's good seeing you, man. Congratulations on everything. And
thank you so much.
You well.
Thank you
for having me tonight.
Thank you guys for watching. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.